Welcome everybody. I'm Double O Black,
I'm the Keymaker.
and we're coming here today to bring, I guess, some knowledge, some understanding. Keymaker is 31. He's Caucasian. He's of a different culture. He's from Ohio,
I'm from a lot of places. I'm originally from Virginia.
from Virginia. I'm 61. I'll be 62 this year. I'm what you would refer to as a boomer. And not okay boomer, but a boomer who believes he's a bloomer. And so we've been having these discussions, and we thought it was very kind of us to want to sit before you, the listening audience, and kind of like have these generational discussions. Gen Z.
Yeah, Gen Z, millennials, and talk about some of the things him and I have been talking about because of our differences. It's a very interesting dynamic that we think would bring a lot of positivity and change, and also just a conversation that needs to happen right now.
We think it's important for all generations really to get an understanding, and we've been sharing the same space, and we've been watching changes in each other, in our belief systems and our principles, our morals, our values. And so here we are today. We're coming before you just to have a discussion about some of the differences that we see and some of the similarities. So I believe, Double O Black, that it's our differences that make us stronger collectively. So welcome
Welcome.
to the truth, so let it be told. So I guess one of the things that we have a concern or an issue with is that I've frequently made a statement.
You frequently make a lot of statements.
Yeah, I do. But this particular statement is that do I trust the future generations?
The values.
The values. And my response was, I don't think that the future generations know what their values are. But if I had to pick a yes or no, my answer would be yes. And let me explain why I said yes. Let me explain why I said yes. I said yes because you guys are creative. You're innovative. You streamline processes. You got information overload. You got tons of information available. And that really excites me because I believe applied information is power. Just having information and not using it is a waste. What's the purpose of having it if you're really not gonna apply it? And so applied knowledge is wisdom. And so that's the caveat here, because I think you have access to all of those different things that I said, and really I esteem you all. The one very valid concern that I have is that you lack experience and you lack wisdom. So, but overall, my answer is yes. I appreciate this new generation, the mindset, the way you guys have turned things upside down. And we've done all kinds of civil rights, women's rights, voting rights, so we're actually passing the mantle on. In a lot of cases, the future generations believe that we're responsible for what is taking place in these United States. When in fact we disagree, or I disagree, because we're under the government's control. Although we have done a lot of things, it caused us to operate as a collective as opposed to an independent. Whereas, from what I'm understanding, you guys are more independent than collective. And so this is going to be some of the things that we're going to talk about this morning.
Yeah. Okay, it's recording right now, but in the future, what we want to do is we don't want to play to the camera. We want to act like we're having a conversation and stuff like that. But yeah, a lot of the points that you're making, I see, and I actually agree with some of them. Like, I do believe that a big part of Gen Z and even millennials lack that experience. But I also believe that technically somebody who is 18 can go through life in such a way that they can get a lot of experience that puts them ahead of the pack and stuff like that. And we never know if that's the case. And
So-
we never know if like that amount of information overload can lead to more instances to where that happens, to where you get wisdom and experience faster. Of course, it's a lot different because it's mostly all on the internet, so it's applied differently than in the real world, which is a big difference. But we're also seeing that more of the world is being taken place on the internet. So who's to say which side is really more important or more real than the other as each day goes on. But glad to hear that you do not believe, but you trust that you trust their values for the future and stuff like that. Ultimately, you have some concerns, but ultimately you see it headed in a good way, a good path.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And so what I actually see, what I envision, is that because we're referred to as boomers, okay boomer, what I actually see is you guys are our future. You know, we are the past, the experience. And so what I envision is a bridge, bringing my generation forward, crossing the bridge to where you guys are, because you're going to be leading us. So think of this as a bridge for generations to come together collectively to defeat the status quo, to come against the status quo, to rise up against this status quo and bring a change. We brought the changes in the manners that were available to us. And you guys have technology that's available. We're the most technologically advanced nation in the world. And you guys are the most technologically advanced individuals by far in the history of these United States. So we're bridging the gap. That's what this is all about. Bridging the gap, gaining a greater understanding, getting rid of our faux pas, and I don't, I can't, I won't, or it just can't happen, and opening up our minds to think about the probability and the possibilities. There's pros and cons to everything. There's pros and cons to you. There's pros and cons to me. There's pros and cons to this universe. But together, collectively, I think that we can actually bring about big change.
Yeah, positive change too. Hopefully, hopefully it turns out that way and everything. It's a big word for me is hope, and that's what yeah, and I agree. It's that bridge that that we're speaking about and everything. It's as I see it, it's kind of like a 90%, 10% thing, and I see as myself as kind of like a advisor or not contractor, but like whoever, a foreman, I don't know, but somebody who's advising the bridge, because me being a millennial, I have a little bit of experience on his side, being a little bit older than Gen Z, and then being a little bit on the younger side, I have a little bit more of experience on Gen Z side as well. I grew up just in enough time to know what the world is like without the internet. But then as I was becoming a teenager, the internet was becoming a big thing. So I was kind of like the first generation to really take place on the internet. And with that, that's where my experience lies. My experience in all this real world internet stuff and all that, it's my experience and my wisdom comes from that internet language that, a lot of us millennials and now Gen Z is taking the reins, but millennials built that language, I think, and then Gen Z and everything is like building upon it, making even more of whatever it was before, and I'm trying to bridge the gaps together. He's building the bridge, I'm helping facilitate it, and hopefully this actually sparks some Gen Zers to start building the other way, and then yeah.
So we're talking about bridging the gap. And you talked about the languages, the Gen Z, the millennials, and their participation and the advancements that have taken place. Would you go so far as to say that the platforms that we're now operating on were actually created by or during the era of the boomers? The current platforms, the internet.
Yeah. They were the boomers that were seeing the change. One of the things that a lot of people talk about with boomers is like, which technically back then they weren't boomers yet. They were my people. They
Right.
weren't my generation technically. They were the people seeing the change, seeing how society was changing, and they were taking advantage of that, and making technologies that were able to push us into the future. And then now it's swapping.
You know, that's very interesting because with that statement, since you said that we were you and you were us,
We're gonna be, yeah.
Gonna
yeah,
be.
Yeah, or yeah.
so then when I'm sitting here looking at you, I'm looking at me, and when you're looking at me, you're looking at you.
Yeah, yeah.
So wow, that's awesome, and I think that kind of gives us a different perspective because we look at separation. Fuck the boomers. They don't know what the hell they damn talking about, and we're saying, fuck the millennials. They don't know shit. They don't have no goddamn experience. They don't have shit. They don't even know what the hell they're doing. So this is a dichotomy. But when we really look at it, we are each other.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, so
We're just mirrors.
we're mirrors. We're split from the same atom. We're all the same people. In essence, if you look at energy is never lost, it's only transferred. You know, so we are each other. And I think that gives us a unique perspective for this particular conversation.
Yeah, I think a lot of people who may try to come together like that or like this, if they don't have that realization, if they don't understand that, I don't think they're going to go anywhere. It's you need that step first before you can even imagine this becoming anything helpful or to bring about change, because that right there is going to stifle so much.
Yeah, I agree, and I think a big component that's necessary for individuals that are so different as you and I to sit down is to understand that we are not who today we are one person, but tomorrow we're going to be a different person.
Yeah.
And so change is ever here. And I'm not yet the man, even though I'm 61 going on 62, I'm not the man today that I will be tomorrow. And you're not the man that you are today that you will be tomorrow. So we're ever changing.
Yep.
But I think a real baseline component for people or individuals to have these conversations is the fact that we have to understand there is no absolute.
Yep. Only a Sith deals in absolutes.
So one of the things which we refer to as Danisms is that the truth is a lie waiting to be advanced to become the truth. So let me give you an example of that. You know, yesterday I had information that the sky was yellow. And then all of a sudden there's some new information that says, no, that's not the color that it was. It's some scientific data that says what I saw was based on sun rays and other factors that made it appear to be that color, but in all essence, the sun is orange. So what was yesterday what I believe to be the truth happened to be a lie today because new information came about which advanced it to become the new truth.
Yeah. Quick thing that comes to my mind is dietary stuff. That's always changing. They say you need 8 glasses of water one day, then 6 another day, and then 20 the next day, or a glass of milk a day, or then they say milk's actually bad for you altogether, and it's but we listen to it like it's fact when it's put out.
Well, and that's a very good word to use because there's fact and there's truth. And so historically what we've been getting from the government, because the government controls all the information that goes in and all that comes in, all that goes out, all that comes in. You know, the Federal Education Board was set up by the Rockefellers. Now, why would the richest people in the world want to control education and knowledge?
I wonder.
Yeah, well, I believe it's to enslave all of us, indoctrinate us with the information. They didn't want us to rise up. They wanted us to be workers. So I don't have a college degree. I dropped out of high school. I went back and I got my high school diploma. I actually got 2. And I have attended some college. But the fact of the matter, other than reading, writing, and arithmetic, there's nothing that I use today that I was taught then.
Yeah, and I'm similar. I didn't go to college. I did graduate, but by the skin of my teeth. I hated school. I skipped school so much. I skated by with D's. I barely got in and barely finished. But it wasn't because it was too hard. It just wasn't engaging and everything. I could tell that I wasn't going to be utilizing a lot of this stuff. So I just did things that gave me more street smarts and stuff like that. Which nowadays, when you have, speaking of the internet and stuff like that, it's. I'd say that there's an argument there that you don't necessarily need a degree as much anymore, even though jobs and everything will say otherwise. It's because any information you need, you have it at your fingertips. So the real thing that's actually more important is that applied knowledge, is that street smarts. It's that going out there and testing all of these things and learning how to handle when it doesn't go right, and learning how to handle it well when it goes good or goes well. And I think that that's a big part of it. And I think that's why a big part of why we strive the way that we do is because that's what we decided to focus on. And now anybody can look up anything academically and become a professional. But really what's the harder version now is to actually put it into action, to actually get up, to actually do all of these things. I've traveled a lot and that's helped me out a lot. And I know you told me about tons of stuff you've been through. It's completely different from anybody else I have a conversation with.
Right, just going back to knowledge and education, basically, and this is no harm intended to educators, but I think educators are some of the most ignorant individuals that I have met, the educators. And so what is an educator? Somebody who just regurgitates knowledge. So what are they teaching us when we were in school? To regurgitate information. It's not that you know it, it's just that you can expel it from your body.
Yeah.
Dispense it.
Yeah.
Sort of like a water dispenser. They ask you a question, they want you to be able to give them the answer of the information that was put in. Input equals output. But if you put bad information in, the information coming out is bad. So we're learning today that the facts, which that's what they were facts.
Yeah.
Okay, it was not the truth.
Yeah. We're also learning that a lot of those institutions are corrupt. And so who knows what that implies and all that stuff.
Absolutely. So I can understand why the other generations, the younger generations, believe that we failed them. You weren't the only ones that were given this bad information. We were given this bad information. Our parents were given this bad information, so forth and so on.
Yep.
It's all by this control. But when we're talking about knowledge, and I agree with what you said, the most important thing I think is common sense.
Yeah.
And common sense is not so common.
Yeah.
A lot of people are struggling. Regurgitating information is fine. But is that really knowledge because we got access to it? Just because, is that really knowledge? Do we really know it?
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
It's information that we got access to.
Yeah.
But is that necessarily knowledge?
Yeah, I wouldn't say it is. It's a cut under knowledge, whatever that would be.
Right,
Maybe we need a new word for it.
Gotcha. Sub-knowledge.
Sub-knowledge, I like that.
Sub-knowledge.
Sub-knowledge.
So...
all of my sub-knowledge is on my phone.
Absolutely. And for us, we came up thinking, well, you got to go to school, you got to get a good job, and then you live a happy life. But probably me, unlike a lot of people in my generation, I retired a couple years ago because I didn't want to just retire at 65 like the average citizen and then live for 10 years and then die. Once I saw those statistics, I said, the hell with this shit.
And I realized that early too. I realized that when I was like 20. I was like, that doesn't sound like a good path to go down. I don't want to work that much and then just have a little bit of time. And then die. I want to learn how to be happy throughout it all.
And that's what I like about other generations. You guys are nonconformists. You're creators. And so I have my youngest daughter is 26. I got a 27. I got a 28. I got a 30. I got a 34. I got a 33-year-old son. And I have another son that will be 41. And so when I start thinking of, oh, he will be 42. And I look at my children, and they're all entrepreneurs, but I look at their mindsets and I look at the tree that they fell off, because I'm fruit, I'm the seed for a tree. As a matter of fact, I am still the fruit. My dad was a seed, and his dad was another seed. So they planted a seed, which was a tree. And so each generation is fruit that fell off of that tree.
Yeah.
Now, when a fruit falls off a tree, I mean, the fruit is going to be like the tree.
Yeah.
All right, so you can't get a plum off an orange tree. And so each one of those fruit has seed. And so if it's on the ground, it's going to reproduce, because the seeds, all that stuff is going to disintegrate. The seeds are going to go into the earth and reproduce more trees.
Yeah.
And so we're actually all the same. But even though we are the same, each generation should be better and should be stronger. Let me tell you something funny. And I don't know if a lot of the people in my generation heard this. My dad told me I would never be smarter than him. I would never be stronger than him. Now, mind you, my dad only had a 3rd grade education. But I will say this. My father was the smartest man I ever met. My dad transitioned at 95. Because you born in 1922. Could you imagine the racial struggles that he had to deal with? Now, my mother
Not at all.
was white. Could you imagine in that time frame, the 60s,
Yeah.
a black and white woman, a black man and white woman being married,
Yeah.
and having to maneuver a 3rd grade education? And he did well. He was a chef. He elevated himself, but he had the gift of gab.
Yeah.
That common sense we're talking about. That street smart.
Yeah.
You know,
Being aware of your surroundings, understand all that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
basically being a chameleon.
Yeah.
And so, me being the fruit of my father, I'm somewhat of a chameleon too. I can go from the boardroom to the street.
Yeah, you are.
You know, so it doesn't matter to me. You know, I'm very adverse or different. I have multiple me's. I can function in almost any environment.
Yeah, you adapt.
You know?
And I think a big part of that comes from empathy.
Yes.
I don't believe somebody would be able to do that if they didn't have empathy, or they're a psychopath. But that's whatever. The empathy is, I think, where it all comes from. And
Right.
it's if you have that, you're able to do that, and that just adds to you get that from all this street smart, common sense stuff that we're talking about.
So my definition of empathy is understanding how others feel, and in the communication process being able to regurgitate to them that I understand how you feel by sharing what they just said to me
Yes, in
Okay.
in your own words. Or
in my own words.
but in a way that they also understand and be like, yes, that's what I mean.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
A lot of times we're talking, we just hearing, but we're not really listening.
Yeah, I agree.
And so I think the empathetic part of all this is getting people to understand that I'm really paying attention. You have my undivided attention. I hear you,
Yeah.
and I'm listening to you.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. Yep. I would pretty much word it the same way. The only words that I would say different is just being able to put yourself in somebody else's shoes.
Yeah,
And, you know,
yeah. That's a good description.
Yeah. And really being able to feel it out and like understand where they're coming from. Not put yourself in their shoes and then just make whatever decision you normally would make. Understand that being in their shoes would change your decisions, would change your perspectives, and the more you talk with somebody, the more you share with them and they share with you, you learn more about that, and that's just more information that you now have for other human beings and stuff that you meet along the way.
Well, and with that segue, let's talk about something we did yesterday. The Keymaker asked me to sit down and watch a few shorts with him, and I did.
They were shorts to be able to explain them some of the different terms that have come out on the internet.
Doomer.
Doomer, which there is Boomer and Zoomer, which is some of the more obvious and well-known ones, but then there was also Doomer and Bloomer, and it was good. Yeah, it was working well. It was just to get them kind of, as we were talking, building that bridge and everything like that, getting them to see where Gen Z's side is coming from and how they view the Boomers. That being said, as many you know, we all have qualities of all different types of things and all that stuff, but even though the age you are, I don't believe that you are a boomer. There are some characteristics here that I don't think that you wouldn't be able to get rid of them, being the fact that you are older and everything. And it's not even necessary that you would want to get rid of them. But with that, I don't believe that you are a boomer in that sense. But yeah, talk more about this video.
Right, and so he brought up a very good point, because I think one of the questions that we brought up yesterday while we were watching these shorts was the fact that, you know, there's a set beginning and end ages for boomers. There's a set beginning and age for Generation Z and for millennials. And so my question was, I may fit in the age group, and you may fit in that age group, but is that a definite capture of the individual? You know, just because I look like a boomer, I fall in that age group, you know, I'm considered a boomer, despite the way my mind works. And I think that is an overcasting net or a generalization that all generations use.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that we probably need to address, and to start looking at people on an individual basis as opposed to as a group basis. Sure, I may look like the boomers, you know what I mean? But when I saw it, I consider myself more of a bloomer, because I'm learning more. And then there's this passage in the book of instruction that says, above all things, get the understanding.
Yeah.
So what we're doing, we're spending time gaining understanding. I'm understanding younger generations, how they think, the internet language, your space, the value systems that you guys possess. And I think the same is taking place on your side.
Yeah, it's a middle ground. It's like the middle ground between knowledge and wisdom, or experience and everything, is that understanding.
Or as we refer to it in New Orleans, which is where we're physically at,
Love this city.
where the Spaniards and the French met to resolve disputes. In the center median, it was called the neutral ground.
Yeah. And to me, that's something that a lot of people, I have so many words and ideas about that neutral ground, where it's like, for big ideas for war and stuff like we're talking about, it's the neutral ground. But for me, it's also a center of play. It's what you did when you were 7 years old in a sandbox with other kids and everything like that, with no judgments. All it was curiosities and trying to understand the world. And to me, this is the adult version of that.
Right.
But you need a level of that childhood to be able to be in this space. And I think a lot of people nowadays have lost that. A lot of people, it's a big thing.
Yeah, you know, because I think this is something that came up in some previous conversations. A child is without fear.
Yeah.
It's the parents that instill fear into a child, because a child is uninhibited, free, and we should all be childlike. You know what I mean? To some degree, with our freedom, no fear, able to conquer, surpass, overcome, overachieve. But a lot of parents, they got their arms around their kids like this. They won't even let you fall down so that you can experience what it means to get up.
Yeah.
So a lot of us have been handicapped because we've been overmothered or overfathered or underfathered, overmothered, overfathered, undermothered, undermothered, overfathered.
Yeah, it's an extreme, and then there's no middle ground.
Right. So our generation, although you guys think that we gave you shit and we could have been better prepared, I don't think we had a lot of control over society as a whole because of the government. You know what I mean? And we live in a socialist/communist country. But individually, I think the parents, because we all had it so rough, we wanted to give you guys more. And so we probably coddled you a little more. And we handicapped you is what we actually did. We made statements like you can be whoever you want to be. And me, personally, I believe you can be whoever you want to be and you can do whatever you want to do. And so the other generation, the younger generation, may think that we told a lie. But when in fact you're proving it to be the truth, because you are being who you want to be, you are doing what you want to do, and you are carving your own history.
Yeah.
New history.
Yeah. It's when you first think about it, you think that that isn't what's going on. But when you really take the time to think about it and conversate with it with somebody, you realize that that is what they're doing and everything.
Right.
And to me, I see it as incremental things. It's like the generation before can be looked at for not doing enough, but they did what they could. And that alone helped the next generation do a little bit more. And then now look at Gen Z, who knows what the changes they're going to be able to make based off the other generations and all the things that they did.
Oh, agreed. And so I guess the question is, with this bridge that we're talking about, let's just say the wisdom, the boomers, cross over the bridge and meet the millennials, and we meet Gen Z. This is the question. It's for you.
Yeah.
What can we possibly accomplish together?
Possibilities are endless. I just got chills.
Endless.
Yeah.
You know, so you old farts out there, you okay boomers? If you don't change this here and get with the program, we might have to behead you. All right? Because what good is a stiff neck? You can't turn to the left, you can't turn to the right. We believe that everything we did is concrete? Oh no. How could it possibly be? Because when we came up, there was Saturn. I used to build these little spaceships called Saturn. But I retired from the aerospace industry. Space and defense is where I worked. And Artemis was the project that I worked on, which was the last rocket to take flight. So look at the difference in the Saturn and look at the difference in Artemis.
Yep.
You know, technology has changed. So look, stiff neck, we're not going to have it anymore. No, I hear you, but no, we're not going to have it anymore because there's no place for stiff neck. We got to be open-minded. We got to look at things from a different perspective. Because guess what? We're in the 21st century now. Would you say we're in the computer age? Or we are in artificial intelligence age?
I don't think we're in artificial intelligence age quite yet, but I don't even think we're going to be able to name it. I think the next generation is going to name it. But we're somewhere in between computer and AI age, and it's interesting, to say the least.
Right, well, it's one step at a time. It's one day at a time. 1 week and 1 month at a time. But I think if other individuals can sort of like chime in and give us some information, ask us some questions. Let us put your questions out here.
Yeah, and bring the stiff-necked people that you know.
Yeah.
So they can see this and get the
Yeah.
opposite of that.
Calling all stiff-necked. Calling all stiff-necks. Hear ye, hear ye. Wherefore, underscore, here be there. You understand that language. So look, I'm Double O Black.
I'm the Keymaker.
And this is the truth, so let it be told. See you at the top. Because the bottom is too damn crowded.
It really is.